Artificial intelligence and meditation. A lot of people are concerned and thinking about whether artificial intelligence will be able to emulate a human mind. But here we have a brief discussion between Lex Friedman and Jack Dorsey. Lex Friedman, a noted artificial intelligence researcher, and Jack Dorsey, somebody who's worked with something like that as the CEO of Twitter, not on what happens if an artificial intelligence can imitate a human mind, but what happens if an artificial intelligence takes over human minds who then aren't able to understand where their own mind and artificial intelligence begins and how to remedy that. So we're going to watch a little clip here, and then I'm going to try to give my commentary on it, which I think is a very, very fascinating subject. So here we go.
Essential threats of artificial intelligence, of artificial general intelligence, or if you think more narrowly about threats and concerns about more narrow artificial intelligence, like what are your thoughts in this domain? Do you have concerns, or are you more optimistic?
I think Yuval, in his book 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, his last chapter is around meditation. And you look at the title of the chapter and you're like, oh, it's kind of, it's all meditation. Yeah. But what was interesting about that chapter is he believes that, kids being born today, growing up today, Google has a stronger sense of their preferences than they do, which you can easily imagine. I can easily imagine today that Google probably knows my preferences more than my mother does. Maybe not me, per se, but for someone growing up only knowing the internet, only knowing what Google is capable of, or Facebook, or Twitter, or Square, or any of these things, the self-awareness is being offloaded to other systems, and particularly these algorithms. And his concern is that we lose that self-awareness because the self-awareness is now outside of us, and it's doing such a better job at helping us direct our decisions around, should I stand, should I walk today, what doctor should I choose, who should I date. All these things we're now seeing play out very quickly. So he sees meditation as a tool to build that self-awareness and to bring the focus back on, why do I make these decisions? Why do I react in this way? Why did I have this thought? Where did that come from?
That's a way to regain control.
Mm-hmm. Or awareness, maybe not control, but awareness, so that you can be aware that, yes, I am offloading this decision to this algorithm that I don't fully understand and can't tell me why it's doing the things it's doing because it's so complex.
That's not to say that the algorithm can't be a good thing. And to me, recommender systems, the best of what they can do is to help guide you on a journey of learning new ideas, of learning, period.
It can be a great thing, but do you know you're doing that? Are you aware that you're inviting it to do that to you? I think that's the risk he identifies, right? That's perfectly okay. But are you aware that you have that invitation and it's being acted upon?
And so that's a concern. You're kind of highlighting that without a lack of awareness, you can just be like floating at sea. So awareness is key in the future of these artificial intelligence systems.
Yeah, the movie WALL-E, which I think is one of Pixar's best movies, besides Ratatouille.
I've seen
Ratatouille was incredible.
You had me until Ratatouille. Okay.
Ratatouille was incredible.
All right, we've come to the first point where we disagree. Okay.
It's the entrepreneurial story in the form of a rat.
I just remember the soundtrack was really good. So
excellent.
What?
By the way, I always tell people, I love these Silicon Valley libertarian tech guys. They're really on the cutting edge of the zeitgeist, and people talk a lot of shit about what's happened in Silicon Valley in the last last decade or two. But the original spirit of these kind of anarchy, libertarian-minded guys like these two dudes, it's still there. And I always say that, if there's any hope, that's going to save us. So My Buddhist interpretation and my meditational yogi interpretation of what they're talking about. I mean, so I think this happens even without AI. You know, people are genuinely controlled a lot by stronger thought forms. So while people are kind of nascent and developing their self-actualizing, developing their individual self and sense of who they are, without any kind of depth to put a space in your mind and analyze these things and kind of define and cut out your own intuitive sense of right and wrong and good and bad, and have a higher kind of reference point for why that I'm making these decisions, why that I'm listening to this person and not that person, why I'm making this choice and not that choice. I think most people already, before they kind of have a higher reference to culture, maybe they, like me, have a big library of Buddhist books and listen to people like Dorsey and Friedman now with all this information, all these great, intellectual people that we have access to on the internet. Without building that frame of reference, I think kind of lower level consciousness is already sucked into the middle level of culture where they're just dominated by powerful memes, right? Powerful memes. So even without AI, Vipassana meditation, Buddhist Vipassana meditation has been already building this self-awareness for 2,500 years, and even longer before that, before the Buddha came. So what happens in Vipassana meditation is like what the type of meditation that they're talking about, where you highly analytical, analyzing, the things that arise in our minds, our feelings, our perceptions, all of our skandhas. That 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 already is cultivated in Vipassana meditation. So in Vipassana meditation, you cultivate shamatha, concentration, which is like you have this space. You untangle your fixated mind. You untangle the fixated mind and abide and rest in this like clear space. So then your mind understands that it has agency, it's autonomous, has svatantriya, they say in Shaivism, like autonomy, and it doesn't get drawn into these memes and become, overwhelmed by them. So when you cultivate that space in your mind of shamatha, that clarity in your mind, then you have vipassana. Vipassana is insight that comes when you're able to consciously understand, the motivations behind these memes, behind these impulses. And you can consciously choose to indulge them or not, or, extract wisdom from them. And the ultimate wisdom to extract from them is that all of these things arise spontaneously without any beginning, middle, and without any real independent essence of themselves. They're all essenceless. They're all like, figments in a dream. All of these impulses and skandhas, they spontaneously appear in the clarity of the mind. Due to we might be fixing our attention on this or that thing, and these causes and conditions, which kind of produce this upwelling of experience in our mind through our sense consciousnesses. But all of them, when we analyze them in vipassana and the clarity of the mind, and we unfixate on them, we realize from the ultimate nature of these things are essenceless. So, that's the ultimate wisdom to extract from samatha meditation. But getting to AI, like he makes a really fucking good point, and this is kind of scary. Like young people growing up right now with Google, and with all of these services, right, available in their phone, telling them, like you said, what doctor to go to, who to date. Like there comes a point when I think that there's going to be a really serious issue with young people who aren't able to really make a hard line between this is what the algorithm is feeding me and this is my choice, how I define myself as an individual. So that becomes really scary because you don't know who's influencing these algorithms, who's paying to have this or that thing put in front of you. And you might, you can see how that it easily in a top-down structure become really, really bad. You see how that, especially young people who haven't really had a clear defined set of who they are can be influenced in good and bad ways by people that we probably will never meet or not even hear the names of, who may or may not have, a good interest in mind for us. So young people especially, and people who grew up who didn't grow up in an era where there was, not this gigantic omniscient AI building profiles of you and marketing to you and possibly, trying to influence you into this or that political or religious or philosophical or whatever idea. It's going to be really overwhelming for people. And I already feel overwhelmed. I know a lot of people feel overwhelmed by the just intense bombardment of your senses by the algorithm, by what Google and other services determine that you want to see in front of you when you go on Facebook or when you go on Twitter, when you go on whatever Instagram kids are doing nowadays, TikTok, YouTube. So it does become increasingly important for people. It's always been important, but even more so going into the future, for people to have that clarity of that space from samatha meditation where you can actually take advantage of all of, like Lex Friedman was saying, it's not a bad thing. You have the AI can be, a great resource, a great tool that can gather information for you that it knows that you like, put it in front of you, and help you, define yourself, like a mirror that shows you the things that help you, click to choose little bits of information or products or services or whatever, people that you want to date, everything. The AI can become a great tool for you if you have that clarity, that detachment, that unfixated mind, unfixated clear consciousness, so that you're able to know the boundary between the content of your mind and the essence of your mind. So the AI can become a great tool for you to aid in your in your analysis, in your cutting the content of your character and what you choose in your life. If your consciousness is expansive and has the depth and clarity that comes from vipassana meditation, to be able to make those choices consciously. Other than that, we're already seeing it. People are the NPC meme. People are being manipulated by memes and stuff, and they have no agency. These people are basically robots and automatons. So they've become AI, kind of. Ironically enough, the first AI that becomes sentient is actually the algorithms, embedding themselves in people's minds, and so the people kind of become proxy controlled by the AI, which is kind of scary. So make sure that you do your meditation 20 minutes a day, kids, so that you don't fall to that fate.